So the entire community is talking about Sony, this gigantic company that represents trillions in assets, purchasing Funimation, pretty much 95% of it, and people are going absolutely crazy like it's apocalypse and the anime community is about to be destroyed. Not that there's really an anime community to begin with, because we all like different kinds of animes, and a lot of times there's like communities in communities. So I don't have anything in common with someone who watches ecchi a lot, you know what I mean? If you watch a lot of ecchi series, or if you keep up with a lot of the seasonal stuff, you know, about high school girls, I probably can't relate to you. Not that I hate on what you watch, I would absolutely love to see what you watch, but I just don't watch it, so I can't really have a conversation with you like that. Doesn't mean I want to shoot you, doesn't mean I want to slap you with my dick, it just means I don't think I could have the best conversation with you. Now, if we're talking chicks with dicks, alright, let me stop. I can't do this no more. I troll way too much. Now, a lot of this hysteria is justified because if you look at the history of any kind of big, huge corporation, or we can even extend this to like government, right? Getting involved in smaller companies or smaller ideas, a lot of times they can ruin it. Well, it's going to be subjective. You're going to have people who don't like Aniplex prices and Aniplexes under Sony, right? There's going to be people that don't like the way they deal with like exclusives and releases. You're going to have people like that. You're going to also have people who think that Sony's going to take advantage of the fact that they've just acquired rights to Funimation and they're going to terrorize the community in the sense that, oh, you know, they acquired Funimation, so that's Dragon Ball Super, Fairy Tail, that's One Piece, that's Cowboy Bebop, that's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You know, Funimation is famous in the West because it really, I mean, just listen to some of those names I dropped. Like, those are freaking anime series everybody's seen. People are scared Sony's gonna go the extra mile to shut people down or censor people or just make it so that you're gonna have a harder time to see these series, right? And it makes sense because it has happened before. So, for instance, if you are a content creator and you happen to talk about anime or you happen to use footage from some of these anime series, right? Well, Sony is notorious for copyright problems. So if you happen to upload something of Sony's, Sony will be on your ass and you're not gonna fight Sony because they will win. And a lot of times when us anime fans use clips or footage or gameplay from Sony-owned material, we're doing it under the guise of fair use. So that's a pretty big gray area, and anytime you get into a gray area with copyright, it is a war zone. And when it comes to war, guys, it's the profit machine that wins. Unless you get lucky and you go undetected, or they just simply don't care to deal with you. But I've always had the mentality that as a company, you generally want people to talk about your products. That way your products are, you know, promoted and people go out there and they purchase them, they play them, and they continue the cycle of giving you money. But not all companies think like that. They actually see that as infringement upon their property and something that's detrimental when it's really not. You know, a lot of these companies have an older mentality and they need to get with the times. They need to understand that we live in a world that unfortunately is ruled by piracy. You know what I mean? Like, there's no stopping, you know, music getting leaked nowadays, gameplay being, you know, downloaded for free, movies being downloaded for free. You gotta make a completely new model to keep up with the times. You know, we live in the One Piece world if you think about it. Now, I'll tell you why I'm not scared of what just happened, although I understand why people are. You know, monopolies can be scary. We have one company that has so much money and they can buy everything out, buy all the companies. You got Viz Media, Madhouse, production companies, distributors, all these companies being bought out by Sony, and now they got all the say in regards to every decision, and now there's no healthy competition, which just deteriorates everything, and it could ruin a market. Now, that's worst case scenario stuff, but it's happened before, and it even happens with governments. You know, governments start controlling everything. You know, they seize the memes of production. Thing is, it's not in Sony's interest to destroy Funimation, right? They saw value in Funimation and how things were being done by Funimation, and so they decided to purchase it, right? So they're gonna keep that model going as long as it's successful. Now, if the model starts not to work, that's when they start, you know, adding their 2 cents in, and they could take it in the wrong direction, but it hasn't happened yet. And so any pessimism you have here is simply hypothetical thought, right? It's not happened yet, right? So it's really not the best to think about it at the moment until you actually start seeing this happen, because you could almost look at this like it's good for Funimation. You have all of this money behind this company, and now they might be able to compete with Netflix, with Amazon, with other providers who are keeping up with today's age. And I feel like the anime industry as a whole is not as profitable as it could be. I mean, you gotta think about anime in general not being as profitable as, some cartoons, that are made a lot cheaper and they're pushed out a lot faster. If you heard about the working conditions of animators and, the strict copyright laws in Japan, you won't think that these are people that are really keeping up with today's standard of how things are distributed. So in a way, you can look at this like it's going to be Funimation with the same ideas with the newer model, because that's how Funimation's been doing it. They're based in Texas, and they've also pretty much, introduced an onslaught of really popular series in the West. It's going to be that with more money, meaning they'll be able to acquire more shows, be able to distribute more shows faster, and maybe Sony will actually open up their mind and start doing things a lot differently than a lot of traditional companies have been doing it in Japan in the anime industry, and even Sony themselves when it comes to a lot of other shit. And I'm not going to get into depth about games because there's quite a few games that I really love that I feel like Sony has not taken advantage of at all. Let's read this article to get a better idea of what's going on. So, Sony Pictures Television Networks is paying $143 million for majority ownership of a North Texas anime distributor. Variety reported that Flower Mound-based Funimation is selling a 95% stake to Sony in a deal that values Funimation at roughly $150 million. Gen Fukunaga, who founded Funimation in 1994 and holds its CEO role, will keep a minority stake and remain in his position, referring to the CEO role. The company will also keep its headquarters in North Texas. So immediately, the vibes that I get, Sony is trying to keep this shit the same, and they're not trying to, apply their vision for Funimation. They simply see its potential. And is it really weird that they see its potential as Dragon Ball Super is blowing up? With Funimation's long-established leadership position in anime and Sony's direct access to the creative pipeline in Japan, it will be a great partnership to take Funimation to the next level, Fukunaga said in a prepared statement. Funimation licenses, adapts, and distributes anime content internationally from Japanese rights holders, Variety said. Its catalog includes shows like Dragon Ball Z, Cowboy Bebop, and One Piece. With the deal, Funimation's 10,000 hours of content, rights to 450 brands, and dubbing and subbed anime offerings will become part of Sony's Animax network, which is built on Japanese anime content. The content is distributed to 23 countries, including Japan. JP Morgan acted as financial advisor, while Kelly Hart and Howman was legal counsel to Funimation on the deal. Man, these names, guys, they just scream money. Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher acted as legal advisor to Sony. So one thing that I'm really happy about is they're keeping Gen as the CEO, and he still owns a little share of the company. Now, it's true. They could boot his ass out. When one company owns 95% of another company, it only takes, the board to basically make a decision to kick, Gen off or whatever. And even though Gen will own a slight portion of that company, so if they ever decide to sell it, he will get a piece and he's still going to get some revenue from it. He's not going to have any say in regards to the direction of Funimation. And that's bad, right? That could turn out bad, and yes, they do have the right to pretty much kick Gen out whenever they want. Though people are underestimating the power of profit. We live in a world today that's the result of profit. If you want a really fucked up example that people don't really ever want to talk about, one reason why people aren't as racist today as they were like 60 and 70 years ago, and thank God we live in a less racist world today, is because it's not profitable to be racist. You know what I mean? You have literal shit in contracts of major companies that has legal guidelines of what you can or can't say. They'll boot his ass out. Why? Because the company will lose some value. You know what I mean? We live in a world where fucking Sony sees potential in Funimation. They want to continue that success. They're not going to be licensing Boku no Pico. They're not going to be out here, doing deals with Tidal. So now you gotta have a Tidal subscription to watch Goku beat Jiren's ass. That's not gonna be a thing, alright? For now, pump your brakes, guys, and